ever find yourself struggling to, like, really find the words for those, like, really big feelings?
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Now imagine a child facing a serious illness, dealing with all these emotions. They might not even fully grasp, let alone know how to even begin to talk about.
It's heartbreaking and so common, unfortunately, in palliative care.
Yeah.
Like trying to navigate those conversations, offering comfort and support when it feels like words just aren't enough.
It's tough.
It really is.
Yeah, and it makes you realize just how much we rely on language to process, to connect.
Totally.
But what happens when those words fail us?
Yeah.
And that's where this whole concept of this button game, it just like completely captivated me. It's being used in palliative care to help people of all ages communicate those really difficult emotions and experiences.
And it's brilliant in its simplicity, really.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of asking someone to put those feelings into words, right?
Yeah.
Which can be so difficult, as we were just saying.
Right.
It gives them this tangible, visual way to do it.
I love that.
So imagine like a collection of 40 or 50 buttons, all different colors, textures,
Yeah.
you know, some are bright, some are animal shapes, you know,
Interesting.
objects, everyday objects, you know, the kind of thing you might see around.
Okay, so it's like playful visually.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems playful,
Yeah.
right? Especially for children.
Yeah.
But it's rooted in those same therapeutic principles that you find in art therapy or play therapy, where you're allowing for expression when words just feel impossible.
Exactly.
And these buttons, they become these visual prompts,
Right.
each one like a doorway to a deeper conversation.
So walk me through it. How does a session using this button game actually work in practice?
Okay,
Yeah.
let's say we have a young patient who's maybe struggling with a new diagnosis.
Okay.
And instead of, you know, directly asking them, how are you feeling? Which can be so loaded.
Right.
A trained facilitator presents them with this collection of buttons,
Yeah.
and they might ask open-ended questions like, which button shows how you're feeling today? Or pick a button that represents what scares you most. Something like that.
So it's not about forcing a response, but giving them the freedom to choose what resonates with what they're feeling inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see what they gravitate towards.
Really?
Yeah, like a child might pick a bright, sunny button, and then a few moments later, choose one that's shaped like a storm cloud.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that opens up a conversation about the mix of emotions they're experiencing.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Even feelings they might not even be consciously aware of.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It is.
It's like those buttons are giving them a voice when they don't have the words, or maybe even the awareness of like what those words should be.
Yeah, that's such a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the initial selection of the buttons, right?
Yeah.
The real magic happens in that space of like, why?
Yeah.
Why did you choose that?
Okay, let's dive into that. What happens after a patient selects a button?
Yeah.
What kind of questions help unlock those deeper conversations?
Well, the facilitator might gently probe, you know, just say something like, tell me about why you chose this button.
Okay.
Or if a child picks a button shaped like a lion, they might ask, what makes you think of when you see this lion? You know, something like that.
So it's like that game where someone says a word and you have to say the first thing that pops into your head.
Yeah.
But instead of a word, it's this button sparking those associations
Yeah.
and unlocking something much deeper.
Exactly. It's amazing what these seemingly simple prompts can reveal.
Really?
We've seen children who were previously so closed off start to open up about their fears, anxieties, and even their hopes for the future
Through this.
through this process.
That's wild.
Isn't it amazing?
It is.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific examples that really highlight the impact?
Oh, absolutely.
Like cases where it helped someone communicate something they might not have been able to otherwise?
Yes. Definitely one case that stands out involved a 12-year-old boy battling leukemia.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And he was having a particularly tough time grappling with the side effects of the treatment and the uncertainty of his prognosis.
I can only imagine at 12.
It was really tough.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking to witness.
Yeah.
But during one button game session, he picked a button that depicted a soaring eagle. And when asked about his choice, he shared that it reminded him of his dream to travel the world, something he hadn't felt comfortable talking about before because he was scared of getting his hopes up.
Wow, that's so powerful. You know, it's amazing how, like, even something as simple as a button can be like that permission slip to kind of voice those hidden desires, those fears.
Totally. It creates this space for vulnerability,
Right.
which is so important in any kind of communication, but especially in this context of palliative care.
Yeah.
And what's remarkable is that this isn't just for kids, you know?
Really?
The button game can be just as effective with adults.
Do you have any examples of how it's been used with older patients? Because I imagine it might be different than with a child.
You're absolutely right. The approach might be tailored a little bit, but the core principles are the same.
Okay.
One woman we worked with, Sarah, a 50-year-old woman battling pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
And she was in a lot of pain, understandably anxious,
Right.
and really having a hard time communicating her needs to the medical staff.
Yeah, I can see how in that situation, just even like the simplest questions, like how are you feeling, can feel like so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for Sarah, the button game, it gave her this outlet she really needed. During one of the sessions, she kept coming back to this one button, this really simple wooden button with a delicate floral carving on it.
Interesting.
And when we asked her about it, she kind of hesitated at first,
Yeah.
and then her eyes welled up, and she shared that it reminded her of her grandmother's sewing box.
Ah.
Yeah.
Like it unlocked all these memories and emotions.
It did. And she went on to talk about how her grandmother taught her to sew,
Yeah.
how it was their thing, you know, and how much she missed her, especially now as she's facing her own mortality.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a side of Sarah that the medical staff hadn't really seen before, you know, a little glimpse into her inner world,
Yeah.
her strength, her vulnerabilities. It was really powerful.
It's incredible to me how, like, an object as simple as a button can have such a profound effect.
Isn't it amazing?
And it makes you think about everyday objects, you know?
Totally.
And how much meaning we attach to them.
Yeah, they become these vessels
Yeah.
for all these memories and emotions.
And triggers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it kind of speaks to this idea that sometimes we don't necessarily need more words.
Right.
We need new ways to access the words we already have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And the button game, it gives us that alternative pathway.
So we've talked about how the button game can help people express difficult emotions.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are there times when it's been used to have conversations about more positive experiences?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, while it's often used to explore those challenging emotions,
Right.
it can also be really powerful for tapping into joy and gratitude and hope.
Really?
Yeah, for example, we used it with a 15-year-old boy, Alex, who had a severe heart condition.
Oh, wow.
And Alex was incredibly reserved.
Yeah.
Getting him to open up about his feelings was like pulling teeth.
Teenagers?
I know, right?
Especially teenagers.
Especially in those really difficult times.
Right.
Yeah, but during one session, Alex ticked this button that was bright yellow, shaped like the sun.
Okay.
And when we asked him about it, he just lit up.
Ah.
And he said it reminded him of his passion for surfing.
Oh, wow.
And he went on to talk about how the feeling of riding a wave made him feel free, alive, and hopeful,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even in the midst of everything he was going through.
That's beautiful.
It was really powerful.
Yep.
And for Alex, you know, that connection to his passion, it was so important because it reminded him of his own resilience,
Total.
his ability to find light, you know, even when things are tough.
Yeah.
And it opened up this whole dialogue with his parents about his hopes and dreams for the future.
It's amazing to see how simply choosing a button can spark these conversations.
Totally.
You know, these connections that might have otherwise stayed hidden.
Yeah, it's a reminder that sometimes the most profound conversations,
Yeah.
they come from the most unexpected places.
That's true.
And that even in the face of adversity, there's always that space for hope, connection, the power of the human spirit.
Yeah, for sure. It's like they're these little vessels, you know?
Yeah.
Carrying so much more than meets the eye.
Totally.
It's not just about expressing difficult emotions. It's about tapping into like the full spectrum of human experience. The joy, the sorrow, the hope, even just those quiet longings that we might not even realize we're carrying around.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to this idea that everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Regardless of their age or what they're going through, there's this rich inner landscape, you know, and it's just waiting to be explored.
And it really makes you think about the potential for this beyond palliative care.
Totally.
You know, if buttons can help people open up in such, you know, high stakes situations,
Yeah.
imagine the impact this could have in just everyday life.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, think about conflict resolution or family therapy, even business negotiations.
Oh, wow.
You know, what if instead of starting with words, we started with something tangible?
Interesting.
something that allows for a more intuitive, maybe less threatening kind of communication.
Yeah, like imagine a family going through a divorce.
Right.
And using the button game to help the kids process everything, or a couple that's struggling to communicate.
Yeah.
Using this to have that difficult conversation that they need to have.
It's amazing. And I think it's really exciting because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution,
Right.
but it's this versatile tool that can be adapted and applied in so many ways.
I love
And it encourages us to think differently about communication. You know,
Yeah.
to recognize that sometimes those breakthroughs happen when we go beyond language.
It reminds me of that quote, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart."
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I feel like the button game in its own way helps us access those unseen, intangible aspects of ourselves.
Yeah.
And share them.
It's about connection, right?
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to bridge those gaps between us,
Totally.
share our inner world, and remind each other that we're not alone.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm kind of left with this feeling of awe at the simplicity, but also the profound power of this.
It is pretty amazing.
Like, it's a good reminder that sometimes the most unexpected tools can unlock these deep parts of ourselves
Totally.
and lead to really meaningful connections.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to anyone listening who's feeling inspired, I love the idea of thinking about what are the buttons in your own life?
What are your buttons?
Yeah. You know, what are those objects or images or even sounds that have personal meaning for you
Totally.
and can help you connect and spark conversations and evoke memories and just bring you closer to the people around you?
It's a beautiful thought.
It is.
It's a beautiful thought.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It was incredibly insightful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep connecting, and never underestimate the power of a simple button.